All rise. State, call your next witness. The state calls Zulema Pastanis to the stand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Have a seat on the stand and state your first and last name and spell it.
Zulema Pastanes. Zulema Pastanes. Chili dog. Jalapeno. Pastenes. Okay, first question. My background and tell the jury a little bit about myself. Okay. Well, I used to be in a cult. I was one of the earthquake women. You know, I could get the earthquakes going. I also sent some very nefarious text messages about, Chad. Seeing Chad with a woman with a white dress and wanting to be the one to save Lori from Ned Schneider. I was in this cult, but now I is a state's witness. I tell you a little bit about myself now. I am a life insurance agent. Yes, I sell life insurance. It's called Cults Insurance Market. Don't let the name fool you. Cults means cash you what's the word? Oh, lie to steal. Cults you lie to steal. Cults insurance market. You don't need a physical examination because I will tell you that you are going to several planets from here. You don't need to, the body is the body. You don't have to be in great health, although if you are very young and are getting ready to run a marathon and you have no health problems at all and you just wake up one morning and you're dead with pink foam hanging out of your mouth, that is something that the Cults Insurance market will help you with. Let me put my glasses on so I can tell you a little about my business. Are you having a problem getting life insurance? See me right away, the Cults Insurance Market. Have you been canceled because of your health? Have you gotten into a position where someone else cannot pay your insurance premiums anymore? I am your agent. I have many voodoo things I can do. Colombian Kush Kush. Malachite Maguga. Let me say that again. Malachite Maguga. I can do this for you. And here are the specials going on with the Cults Insurance Company. Life insurance. It's so important to have. And that is that if you have an existing life insurance policy from another carrier, don't worry about it. I will get you hooked up with an in-home meeting. And you can roll that insurance policy over like a bean burrito with habanero sauce. And to top it all off, I will give you free tickets to Del Taco, just as my husband went My husband, he chopped up his niece's body and buried her in a pet cemetery. And he created an appetite for him, so he left after 2.5 hours. And he went to Del Taco and had him some good stuff, you know. Those burritos are famous, so we give you that. So just remember, Zuzu is there for you. I am a state's witness. I am going to be credible for everyone to hear. I am going to let everybody know, and the jurors, they're not gonna believe a damn thing that damn zombie woman has to say. Good evening, everybody. I'm trying to prove a point. Now, I know we got to be optimistic. We have to be optimistic about the coming trial. It's in 2 days. Jury selection is on Monday. Get Zuzu's accent out of me. Rah! The bottom line is this, y'all. The state is rolling the dice. They're rolling the dice on who they're going to depend on. And we're going to discuss some of that tonight. Also, we're going to go over this whole situation going on right now with this situation with Kay and Larry Woodcock, whether we'll get a ruling on it on Monday. I've been praying every day for it. And we're also going to touch on grandparents' rights, because I know the last time I went off the deep end about all this news and stuff, I said I wasn't going to get into it, but I think it's important as well. But the first thing I want to cover is this whole situation with the state's witnesses. Now, what does my heart good is that there are evidentiary items, whether it's body cam, text messages. There might be there will be recordings. There'll be maybe something in journals, something tangible that none of these cult members have to authenticate. None of these cult members have to really deal with. Of course, you know that Melanie Gibb went on the stand at Chad's preliminary hearing, and she recorded that secret call between her, Chad, and Lori. And here's what I want to make clear about that. For anyone that thinks that Melanie Gibb is on the level, they're wrong. First of all, a lot of people would say, well, KJ, there was nothing ever said in that conversation, that secret recording, that proved anything that Melanie Gibb was involved or knew anything about these murders. But let's just stop and use common sense a little bit. When she called them, they're not going to come right out and talk about it. Remember when Ian was doing secret recordings? He said nothing of value was ever said. Chad and Lori never would talk about what they did. That's part of it. They were secretive about everything within that cult. You take into consideration that Melanie Gibb, Melanie P., and Alex and Zulema stood behind Zulema's house and tried to tell each other, we're going to use these code words. The bottom line is Lori and Chad was not going to say, Melanie Gibb, you know what happened. They're not going to say that. Why? On that secret recording, they would have never, ever said something like that, because that would have implicated themselves. And when Lori told Melanie Gibb that, I don't know if you're being controversial or you're recording this, if you'll notice, a change happened in all of that. Melanie Gibb sat up all night with David Warwick trying to figure out a way to back themselves out of the involvement they were in. That's just the bottom line. I know that many of y'all say, well, KJ, you can't know that. But folks, I'm telling you, as I look at you, Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, the rest of them, they knew that Tylee and JJ were dead. They knew it. They didn't just decide that after Chad and Lori took off. They knew. They absolutely knew. And so when I talk about the state wanting to put these cult members on the stand, it bothers me, but I think in some ways it's going to be okay, because you have other witnesses that are credible, like Hermosillo. You got Stubbs. You got Detective Ball, you've got the FBI, you've got all of these different law enforcement agencies that will absolutely be as credible can be. Then you also take the tangible evidence, and the juror members can see that, hear that, look at that. They don't have to solely depend on these cult members and their testimony. Now, when the state talked about their response to Lori's alibi, a lot of stuff's been going on online. People have been saying things like, how are they going to prove? How are they going to prove that Lori actually did what she did? In the response to Lori's alibi, the state explains all previously disclosed evidence establishes the defendant's participation in the charged crimes of murder, conspiracy, and grand theft. In other words, the state has made it very clear. They've made it very clear through their discovery process. In fact, let me just put it to you this way. They're not just giving out a list of names of people that's going on the stand. They have to let the defense know the meat of what these state's witnesses are going to say. Not every single word, but where they're going to go in it. As alibi does not apply to conspiracy charge, the alibi disclosure is misplaced as to those charges. An alibi is similarly misplaced in charges where the defendant is charged with murder as a principal. Further, the state intends to call the named and previously disclosed witnesses or admit the following previously disclosed evidence in its case in chief and in rebuttal to refute the defendant's claim of an alibi. So what that means is there's going to be a rebuttal case after the state puts on its whole case. If the defense decides to put some people on, then there'll be a pretty much lacing up the whole state's case by a rebuttal case. So we know that these cult members, Melanie Gibb, Melanie Pulaski, David Warwick, and Zulema, are going to be in that rebuttal case. Does that mean they're not going to be in the original case in chief before the rebuttal? I don't know. I'm sure that somehow that's going to get worked out one way or the other. But what's interesting about it is if you look at Lori's alibi, okay, she talks about these specific people other than what? She doesn't say in her alibi that Zulema was with her. Why is Zulema listed as a rebuttal witness to shoot down Lori's alibi? If that's not the people, if Zulema wasn't one of the people that she names as being with her during the times that JJ and Tylee were murdered, what is Zulema's testimony going to be? And if you go a step further, there's one name that is missing that is in Lori's alibi, and that is Audrey Baratario. Now, explain to me, because I'm not, I'm kind of scratching my head on it. If Lori is naming names of people that were with her at the time that those children were murdered, and one of them is Audrey Baratario, why isn't the state going to use her in their rebuttal? Okay, because this situation with this Audrey woman, first of all, no one's going to tell me otherwise. When she went to the grand jury, she did provide testimony. But I guarantee you, no one's ever going to know it. But I'm secure in knowing that there were at least some of those questions that she was unwilling to answer, and she pled the Fifth Amendment. Archie would have never put that in a legal document if she wouldn't have done that. And he got the grand jury transcript. So I don't know if Audrey Baratello is actually going to be in the state's case in chief, but we know that the state has made it clear that these other cult members are absolutely going to be in the rebuttal. And that goes to this whole little silly skit of mine. Y'all, I'm sorry. I don't want to shit all over anything. I know this case is very important and we want to see justice done. And it is going to be done. But it's not going to be laced up. It's not going to be slam dunked because of that damn Melanie Gibb or Zulema or David Warwick. What? They seen the light because Melanie Gibb was there from the get-go and should have immediately. Especially when Lori's talking about Charles's insurance and Melanie Gibb helping do all this to Charles Vallow. She should have walked away from her from day one. And then you've got Zulema, who's been there the whole time. She was the communications director of the cult. She made sure that anybody who needed to get in touch with Lori or Chad, she was the go-between. Not to mention, she was the damn wife of that nut job Alex Cox. You know, the one that they get married, they go to Las Vegas, they slap the baby all on each other. She says in her police interview she thinks he tried to kill her. Yeah, if she thought that, why was she continuing hanging with him? Why didn't she walk away from him? Huh? That's what I'm trying to say is this. This is going to come out wrong. I think. I think it's going to come out wrong, but I've got to say it. I am looking forward, absolutely looking forward to the audio on the cross-examination of Melanie Gibb, David Wardick, and Zulema and Melanie P. Because I can tell you right now, it's going to be a shit show when it comes to the defense cross-examining them. And I cannot believe that the state would actually think that putting these cult members on the stand is going to make their case look really good. The only thing that's going to make the state's case look good is the fact that they've got all of that evidentiary evidence along with law enforcement, FBI. There will be some, I know, I thank God that Kay Woodcock, she's probably one of the few outside of law enforcement, possibly Larry, I'm not sure, but I do know that Kay's on the witness list. The bottom line is that they're the only ones that anyone should believe. And you know what, with that said, I'm just so concerned about what the defense is going to try to pull. Look what they did! Look what they did over this issue of whether Kay and Larry are grandparents. You want to twist the knife? Then Archie sits in that damn hearing and talks about she gave that title to herself. How hurtful is that? Number one, it's not true. But number two, if you think that was so insensitive and wrong, and I don't give a shit if he said, I think they're nice people, it's nothing personal, that's just his way of covering his own ass. You know, and I know when he said all that, Lori was probably sitting there smirking, shaking her head, flippant, and everything else. There ain't no doubt about it. What other way was that damn hussy gonna behave like? And I'll tell you this, and this is just me, and I believe this, and y'all know I've been wrong so many times, but I feel in my gut and in my heart, this is just what I believe, and I hope I'm right, that the judge is going to rule that Kay and Larry can sit through the trial. I just really feel like this is going to happen for them. And what's the beauty of it? Obviously the beauty of it is that they get to still, to this day, be the face of JJ and Tylee. They've been there the whole time. Y'all remember when this shit went down and it started being talked about on the news and stuff. The first people we knew, the ones that we looked to, were Kay and Larry. And I thank God I got to meet Kresha in the process of all this. But Kay and Larry was everything that we looked toward. I honestly just, it's like justice is something more important because of them and who they are, the love in their heart and everything else. That's what has held me together all this time. Y'all don't know how many times I just wanted to say the hell with this, but I didn't do it because number one, I wanted justice through understanding. I wanted to do right by, what I could do in all of this, and also all of y'all. I just absolutely look to Kay and Larry to be able to sit through this trial. And, another reason that I think this will happen, and The reason I hope it'll happen is because, y'all, when the judge rules this, Lori's going to find out about it. She was able, y'all. She was able to keep JJ away from Larry and Kay. And she absolutely was sick in the head to do it. All that time, she tried to keep Larry and Kay away from JJ. And now, even though he's gone on to heaven, she cannot and will not be able to say anything at all when the judge says, yes, Kay and Larry are the personal representatives of JJ. Yes, they are victims and get to see this whole trial. I believe it. I hope it happens. I have faith that it will. I prayed, and many of y'all have prayed. We'll just continue to do that. We've been sucker punched. I know Kay and Larry and Kresha and the rest of the victims' family members have had one sucker punch after another when it comes to this case. But I know in my heart of hearts that this will happen for them. Judge Boyce, he can't hide reality. He can hide some of it in his own crap, but he cannot hide from this at all. Kay and Larry deserve to sit in that courtroom, and I believe they will. So let's get back to this about the state's witnesses, Melanie Gibb. She's going to get on the stand, and y'all remember her, I guess, on the surface, scratching the surface testimony at Chad's preliminary hearing, and how John Pryor disrupted her a bit, just barely, asking about where she was living and asking her about her beliefs. Well, folks, the state has made the indictment is such that it has to be brought out. They endorsed and espoused religious beliefs for the purpose of murder. So it has to be aired out. And the state, they might think that they can put Melanie Gibb on the stand and hope and pray that Archie will not be, or Thomas. I don't know what kind of cross-examination in terms of their talents as defense team. But one or the other is going to get a hold of Melanie Gibb. They're, the state is going to try to go along the lines of what they did before. But in this trial, folks, they're going to have to go into it with Melanie Gibb. And if anybody's waiting for Melanie Gibb to truly tell the truth to the jury, they got another thing coming. The state is going to allow Melanie Gibb to lie by omission. In other words, she's lied to the police. She's lied to everyone. And nobody can prove otherwise. So the state's pretty safe in that I don't think the defense is going to be able to pull that out of her that she knew all along. But there will be some inferences made by the defense, y'all. And Melanie Gibb's going to look like a damn crazy-ass woman that she is. Pure and simple. And, that's the beauty of the jury and what they've got to do. They can disregard everything that Melanie Gibb or the rest of them have to say. But it's, and just look at the evidence. But the bottom line is that it's going to be hard to look away from their testimony. And there would have been other ways for the state to authenticate that secret recording if that's what they needed her for. They could have also authenticated it through the police because Melanie Gibb gave it over to the police. They could have testified, yes, Melanie Gibb brought this secret recording to us, and then go from there. But they're putting these cult members on the stand, and they're going to get chewed up and spit out. Now, with that said, don't worry, y'all. Don't worry, because the jury's going to see, hopefully they're going to see that this was all just a crazy-ass situation, and they're going to read between the lines of it. And I have faith that they're going to stick to the credible witnesses like Kay Woodcock, law enforcement, other family members that had nothing to do with any of this. But then you got Melanie Pawlowski. And let me tell you something about that. This is so important to let y'all understand this. The defense absolutely can bring in Melanie Pawlowski's interviews. Remember those? Y'all remember when Chad and Lori took off and Melanie P got out there? She did 2 interviews, one with Nate Eaton and the other one with another station. I forgot who it was. But anyway, she talks about it was a planned move. Remember that? Well, that right there. I mean, everything that Melanie Pawlowski lied about in that interview, protecting her Aunt Lori, is going to come back to haunt her. And her credibility is going to be in the shitter too. Okay, this is just something I'm preparing myself for. You've got your opinions about it, but I'll tell you right now, Melanie Pawlowski is guilty as shit over all of this. And make no mistake, she's going to have to look at those jurors and explain to them how her being related to JJ and Tylee and living right next door to her damn queen of the 144,000 aunt there, she's going to have to explain when the defense asks her, why didn't you know where the kids were? And would a jury member believe her when she says, oh, well, JJ was at school a lot and Tylee was off with her friends all the time? Give me a break. It doesn't take anyone at all with clairvoyance or anything else to absolutely see the truth of the matter. Then you get to David Warwick, okay? And, it wouldn't surprise me one bit that the defense want to absolutely explore the night that David Warwick had his terrible nightmare. And and I know that these kooky people, they can't help themselves from going further, embellishing further than they need to. Instead of, I'm sure the state will prep them and say, keep your answers short, don't elaborate and all this and that. But I'm telling you, y'all, you take these messed up people and the defense asking specificity about things. And let's just add that to it that, when did you wake up, David Warwick, from this terrible dream? And Melanie Gibb went in there and she was afraid to wake Lori up, and yet she calls Lori. Oh, she waked her up anyway because Lori was in the room, which was a crock of shit. They're going to ask David Warwick. They're going to say, okay, so you were awake when, and you was telling Melanie Gibb, I had this terrible dream. Oh, it was awful. It was just a terrible, I felt all this death and all this other shit. Did he go back to sleep or did he stay awake and wait for Melanie Gibb to go get Lori and Chad? Did he follow her down the hallway to wiggle the doorknob there? And what time did he go back to sleep if it was such a terrible situation? Did he bother to ask Melanie Gibb, hey, Melanie Gibb, you called Chad and Lori that evening, which means they weren't at home. And why call Chad if Chad was nowhere to be found? Hey, Melanie Gibb, the love of my life, my wife now, where are they? Do y'all ever notice that? She calls Lori and Chad, but she doesn't know where they're at. She gives some bullshit excuse. Everything that Melanie Gibb talks about, she had to have talked to David Warwick about. And the defense will probably take that and explore it. Knock them off guard. Freak them out. Pucker their asses. You can be sure of it. And then, of course, Zuzu. Okay, well, when the defense starts asking Zulema questions like, what did you mean about, earthquakes? And what did you mean about helping Lori get rid of Ned Schneider? And what did you mean, Zulema Pasternes, about seeing Chad and seeing a white dress and how you could see that Chad and Lori were going to get married and all of this other stuff, and how they have text messages, y'all, of Zulema, Melanie Gibb, Melanie P, and all of them talking about demon possession, zombies, dark and light, releasing the spirit and all this crap. They're going to explore it, and they're going to ask, where do you get this from? They're going to ask these questions, and they're going to do it not because they want to know. They want the jury to see how messed up and nutso these people really are. How absolutely evil and diabolical they all are. If LDS leaders actually selected Chad and Lori for second anointing, that's horrible, says Zero. If they weren't sleeping together, how was Melanie Gibb awakened by Warwick? T.S. Jackson 72, in her testimony at Chad's preliminary hearing, she confessed that they were in the same room together on a mattress on the floor. So she was sleeping with him. She had to admit it, and that's the way it was, you know. What's interesting about that is why lie about everything else but not lie about that, you know? There had to be a reason for all of that. Maybe it was them together. We've got to stick together. Remember, Melanie Gibbs said, and she said, I sat up late at night, all night long, and we reevaluated what we'd been taught all this time. You know, if you're reevaluating something, okay, that means that you believed it. Not that you wanted to believe it, or that, they believed it and I was just along for the ride. Give me a break. Every time I hear her last name, I think of pastrami on rye. I think they were all on a ritual killing that night when they murdered JJ, says Maria P. You know, we'll never know, y'all. We'll never know. But I'll tell you what I'm trying to bring out in all this, besides the fact that the state is relying on uncredible witnesses, is that we are going to find out more than what we have found out through the text messages, the Chandler dumps, the recordings, the body cams, all of those things. We are going to find out that this was a lot deeper and deep-seated, and the connecting of the dots. Because ultimately, I think the reason why the state had to endorse and espouse religious beliefs for the purpose of murder is because that really kind of equals into a conspiracy. Okay, if you think about it, it could have been anything. Say it wasn't even religion. Okay, say this case had nothing to do with religion. It had something to do with something else. Then they would have listed that in the indictment, and that was the impetus for the conspiracy to happen. You had to have something to gather around in order for it to happen. And you know what the sad reality is Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, Zulema, Melanie P., Alex, they embraced what had to be done, you know, their faith. Alex says, I 100% believe. Zulema said, I don't yet. I have to get my whatever vision, revelation. But then the very next day, she says, I believe it, to Melanie Gibb and all this other stuff. And then you got Melanie P. trying to back out and say, I just listened to so much of these podcasts and I don't know what I believe anymore. You know, it's just so disingenuous, really. It had to do with life insurance money and Social Security money, greed and lust, says Maria P. And really, that was the bottom line. But, you know, the reason that the state has to go at this the way they are is because Chad and Lori and the rest of them, they couldn't have just said, we're going to murder them for insurance, Charles for insurance money. We're going to try to take Brandon out. We're going to take the kids out for their Social Security benefits. We're gonna take Tammy out for her insurance. They couldn't live with that if they thought or wanted to believe in their role playing that they were lowercase g's, that they were Phoebe, that Alex was this or that David Warwick was whatever he was, and all of that. They had to make it look like it was something more. As crazy as this sounds, they had to cover up the real motive with the cultish shit basically, to hide their true intention. I don't know if in their mind they were like, well, we really, I really know what we're doing this for, but I'm just going to pretend. I really don't know. I think they got so enmeshed in it. I think fleshly, they got so enmeshed in it. And there was so much of that, I don't know, what is it, cultish, orgasmic crap going on, that it just kind of just grew its own tentacles. They were all so freaking needy, shells of humans they all are. Julie Wilburn, it's really interesting that you would say that, because if you look at all of their personalities, they all, now we're not talking about how they were raised. We're talking about just the way they are. It's really, if you hear any of them talk, it's almost like no one else matters. No one else matters. I am a lowercase g. It's like I'm the self-centered one. Everything's got to be about me. And the best way for them to do that was to embrace this cultish bullshit. Really. I don't know if they were taking anything, but they're definitely delusional. That's interesting. Hi, Kazuma Sato. What's up? Raymond Ramondo. Hello, Ray. I like that first name, Ray. You know what Ray stands for on here? Research, analysis, and you. You know what I mean? So the bottom line on that is y'all, it's going to be it'll be this week. Tomorrow they'll start, not tomorrow, the next day after tomorrow. I keep thinking tomorrow's Monday. They're going to have jury selection. We need to keep our thoughts in on that, our prayers, if we pray, that the right ones will get on that jury. And, Nate Eaton is saying it should take this whole week. So, maybe if we're lucky, the end of the week, opening statements, or they might wait till Monday of the following week to get everything squared away. But this whole idea that the state would rely on these people, and make no mistake, y'all, you think the state is relying on people that's like, really, we want to do the right thing? The last thing they want. Melanie P. was the poster child for how all of them felt when she stood out there and they subpoenaed her for grand jury testimony. None of them want to be in this. None of them want to be in it at all. And I'm telling you, it's not going to matter, because Lori's going to get convicted anyway. But I pray that the defense trips all of them up and makes them suffer, because it seems to me that the state is making a deal with the devils, basically. My only hope is that second grand jury, that somehow they will get charged, that somehow down the road they'll get theirs. I am a real believer in what comes around goes around. I really hope so. That whole cult should be in prison. Iffy Angel says, do you think they will let Kay and Larry have the kids when this is done? Well, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but this attorney, Gray, has put, and we'll go over it here in a minute, has put in their personal representatives. So I'm not really sure of the legality of that, so don't quote me on it, but it would be nice if that included them being able to take control of the situation. Because the bottom line is this, y'all. Lori doesn't deserve to have anything to do legally with those children's bodies. None whatsoever. The woman is she's a witch. She doesn't deserve it. She terminated her children. So her her being a mother's been terminated as far as I'm concerned. Wouldn't that be rich if she got to decide what happened to those children's bodies? It's absolutely disgusting to even think about it. Tessie Cooper says, I'm so happy to have you, but to think you will be gone one day. Well, Tessie, I love you. I love all of you. You know what I've said from day one, right? Respect that. I respect all of y'all. I'm not going anywhere in terms of we're all still going to be friends. I'm still going to be going to difficult research from time to time and conversing with y'all on live chat. I love you. I'm not going to go away for good. This channel just will not continue. So that's something that's important, that I keep that promise. That was the whole purpose. If I was going to do this, I had to be willing to give up the channel. And I don't expect any of y'all to understand that, but I know what that means in terms of my heart, okay? Kim DiMaggio says, seems to me that Lori and Chad wanted to be super special and the king and queen with loyal subjects. They both think they are better than everyone else. Well, Kim DiMaggio, the bottom line is this. Lori's not going to be feeling really special when they start calling these states witnesses, at least the law enforcement. And you know, she's going to have to face everything right there, sitting at the table. There ain't going to be no running from this anymore. She's going to have to sit there with her feet shackled. She can have her freaking unicorn ponytail and her bullshit makeup and ringlets, but she's going to have to sit there and see exactly the evidence when she sees. Oh, do you think Lori's woman enough to look up on the screen in the courtroom when they start showing autopsy photos of her beautiful children and what she did to them? I wouldn't be surprised if she turned her head or put her hands, did like this or something. What, she's not woman enough to see what she released their damn spirit from their body? If everything is to believe that this woman says, then she should be able to look and say, that was just the temple. That was just the body. I know my children are not there and I did the right thing. Give me a break. Somebody needs to tag her in the head. I thank goodness I'm not there. They'd arrest me and put me on the 5 o'clock news. It's my understanding, I may be wrong, but by law, people who are accused of murder are denied parental rights. Those rights are suspended until trial. Okay, well, that makes sense, okie dokie. I couldn't see it happening. But what concerns me about it is we're at a point now where when we're looking at Kay and Larry and Kresha and even the other victims' family members, but just specifically them, they've been hurt enough. And they're fixing to have to relive all this. They're fixing to have to, because make no mistake, y'all, if for some reason they don't let Kay and Larry in the courtroom during the trial, which I believe they will, but if they don't, they are going to listen to the audio just as we're going to listen to it. And it's going to unfold for them too. And it's gonna hurt them so bad. And they've been through so much through all of this. And it's just so sad that they continue daily. Just as Kay and Larry said in their statement about all of this, saying that they are victimized daily because they don't get to be around JJ and Tylee anymore. And it's just incredible, really, that they're even talking about this. The defense attorney, I guess at the urging of that damn hussy, why they would, they say they filed a motion to exclude them, but I haven't seen that on the court portal, so I'm assuming that this was an oral motion when he brought it up last time, when Archie brought it up. It was an oral thing, because it says in what we're fixing to go over that there was a motion to exclude Larry and Kay from the courtroom. Okay, so let me just finish this up and we'll move forward to other content. Then we've got Apple Business Records, Google Business Records, Blue Sky Property Business Records. Those we can rely on. Those are not cult members. Those things will help a juror understand that Lori has a shitty-ass alibi and she's not going to get out of it. Then, of course, you've got Ron Ball, David Stubbs, and Ray Hermosillo. And I told y'all a long time ago, Ray Hermosillo was there from the get-go, and he was there when the children were discovered and dug up. He was there at autopsy. And I said Ray Hermosillo was my hero. I believe it. And he's going to be a pivotal witness for the state. Those people, absolutely, when I see this as a rebuttal witness in their case, I'm at peace about that. What I'm not at peace about is anytime Melanie Gibb or Pawlowski or Zulema or Warwick, anytime they're on the stand. And, you know, I thought, well, maybe this means they're only coming in for rebuttal. But I don't believe that Hermosillo or Stubbs or Ball, who are law enforcement, are just coming in for rebuttal. They'll be in the state's case in chief. So perhaps Melanie Gibb and the rest of these cult members will testify more than once. Who knows? Maybe the state has figured out that they don't need them in their case in chief, and they're going to call them as rebuttal witnesses. We'll just have to, you know, and this also goes to what's going to be discovered in the state's case, and what is the defense going to bring out? Because when the defense cross-examines witnesses or talks about what evidence is admitted and all this and that, and they're trying to poke holes in that, whatever, all of it in a nutshell, the bottom line is that will they even need these cult members? I think the state's case, if they only presented what was in Chad's preliminary hearing, remember we talked about it, you know, they're not going to show their whole entire hand at a preliminary hearing. They're just going to get enough to bind over to trial. I guarantee you. Just that alone to me, if that was all their evidence, I believe it. When you got Lori calling Chad while she's sitting in jail, are they searching the house again? All of that? She's guilty as hell. All she cares about. What can I do for you, Chin? I love you so much. You want me to pray for you? I don't know who she could have been praying for other than Satan himself. Because I can tell you this right now. What they were doing in deceit and murder of those children, God does not hear prayers of that sort. So, I want to cover this, and many of y'all have already saw these documents, and I've tried explaining it a little bit better on the community wall, but I just want to go over it very briefly. Motion to allow victim's family to be present at all criminal justice proceedings and designate a personal representative. So this isn't just about Kay and Larry getting to sit through the trial. Their attorney also wants them deemed the personal representative of JJ. And it just absolutely, that's such a prayer of mine. They have been. They absolutely have been the face of JJ and Tylee all of this time. Does anybody think that Janice or Summer, any of the Cox family, did any of them, were they the face of trying to get justice through all this? No, they were too damn busy. They were too busy protecting that damn hussy. Were they out getting on an airplane, going every damn where in the world like Larry and Kay to try to get the kids? I'm just telling you. They should be the personal representative. Comes now Shannon Gray, counsel for the victim's family, Larry and Kay Woodcock, and moves the court for an order to allow Larry and Kay to be present at all criminal proceedings in the courtroom during the trial of the defendant with any co-defendant in this matter, which they want to go ahead and lace this up again. I've been using that word lace up. This is the third time now. I don't know why I'm doing it. But anyway, the bottom line is they're looking toward Chad as well. Because his ass is going on trial too if he don't make a plea agreement. Counsel would also request that Larry and Kay be designated as representative of the immediate family of J.J. Vallow. And y'all, I'm telling you, they've been the immediate family of J.J. What is interesting about this is where man's law screws everything up. This is so black and white that nobody can really see what's in front of them. What's in front of them, everybody that knows about this case, regardless of their position on this case, knows that Larry and Kay Woodcock are the grandparents of JJ, and they have always been the ones that were the face to get justice for JJ and Tylee, and even Tammy and Charles Vallow. Kay and Larry will be the face, along with Cresha, of Charles Vallow's murder when Lori goes to trial for conspiracy to commit murder on Charles Vallow. So, but then again, that's Arizona. I'm assuming this will maybe have to happen again, where an attorney will have to do this. And by the way, since when does a victim have to shell out money to an attorney for the judge to do the right thing? That's to me, you just think about this. Think about all these families all over the country and the world, but let's just look at the United States of America that don't have the money to be able to get effective counsel to help them through this process. It's sad that a judge can't look at it without having someone pay an attorney to file paperwork. In fact, let me just go a step further. Larry and Kay should have never had this dropped in their lap at the last minute like this. This was one of those last minute hearings. Let me tell you something. This should have been ironed out long ago. And I'll say this too. The state knew damn well that they needed to get this done, as far as my opinion is. They could have, they've had somebody, I'm assuming, this is just me, this is my opinion, that's kept in contact with the families of these victims. So the state should have known this was coming. And it's just a damn shame that victims' family members have to pay out of their pocket, which I know Larry and Kay would pay anything in order to be there, and money's not the issue for them. But the bottom line is it's just sad, really, that if you think about it, that in man's law, if you don't have someone filing paperwork for you where you have to pay money to do that, that you might not get they are victims through and through. We all know it. None of us is even on a seesaw about that at all. All of us are sure that they are victims, along with Cresha. And this brings me to something else that I said last time, but I have to reemphasize this. I just pray that the state of Idaho knows when they met in chambers with Judge Boyce about victim seating and stuff, that they would do this for Cresha. It is beyond me that she would have to try to make a reservation when she is a family member. They have got to give her a reserved seat. And I hope Kay and Larry's worked this out. I know they're fighting right now, and in terms of wanting to get to sit through the trial and stuff. But Cresha's going to be there. And I just pray that they've got this worked out, because I'm just, on a bare bones level, I'm concerned, because Cresha's got to travel. And if Kay and Larry are left out of the courtroom, she should at least be able to be in there. I hate the idea of her sitting there by herself. I don't know who else. It's troublesome to me. But let me just say this. This Shannon Gray is also one of the Idaho students that was murdered by Brian Koberger. That's their attorney too. So Kay and Larry got him a good one, okay? It says the request is based on the grounds and for the reasons set forth in the memorandum attached hereto and by the reference incorporated hereunto. And so the judge is going to have to look at this. Connie Fitzgerald says, pray for your enemies. Do good to them and you will be as your Father who is in heaven, Jesus. Love your enemies. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Unless you forgive, your heavenly Father won't forgive you. Okay, and I believe that, Connie, but I'll tell you something. I can forgive somebody, but I don't have to like them. I don't have to like them, and I can be madder than hell about it. So, and really, the bottom line is forgiveness is a personal thing. The DA not meeting deadlines reminds me of a DA, Linda Stanley, in Colorado, in multiple cases, including the Morphew case. Everyone pray for Kresha and what she will be carrying on her shoulders. Give her strength. I sure am, Julie. And Mama Bear Kathy is right there in trying to keep things situated and all that. I just have all faith and confidence that everything's going to be okay. Do unto others as they do unto you, and yours, so they learn not to be a hussy. Okay, so anyway, so let me just go ahead and finish this up. Let me give you the relevant facts that this attorney for Kay and Larry Woodcock have given, okay? Number one, Kay Woodcock is the biological grandmother of the victim, J.J. Vallow, which we all know that. And, let's just keep in mind that Judge Boyce has to look at this. Number two, on May the 15th of 2012, J.J. was born in Lake Charles, Louisiana, to his parents, Dennis Todd Trahan, son of Kay Woodcock and Mandy Ledger. At the time of J.J. Vallow's birth, he was in the custody of the state of Louisiana based on his parents' inability to care for him. J.J. was taken home from the hospital by Larry and Kay Woodcock to their home. In June of 2012, the state of Louisiana granted custody and caregiver status to the Woodcocks to take care of JJ. Okay, so, the bottom line about Archie talking about, this adoption thing in Idaho, this is Idaho law and Louisiana, all this. The bottom line is this is important, whether it's in another state or not. This shows kind of like a chain of custody of JJ, kind of metaphorically speaking. In February of 2013, Charles Vallow, the brother of Kay Woodcock and uncle of Dennis Trahan's biological father, adopted JJ. At the time of the adoption, Charles Vallow was married to Lori, and she became JJ's adopted mother. From 2014 to 2016, JJ lived in Hawaii with his adopted parents, Charles and Lori, and during this time, the Woodcocks continued to have contact with their grandson and traveled to Hawaii on at least 6 occasions. And the reason this is listed is there was never an interruption. Ever. The only time there was an interruption is when Lori and Alex and Chad decided to murder Kay's brother, Charles, because Lori had to run away from that. But anyway, during this time, in 2016, Charles and Lori moved back to Phoenix, Arizona until they separated in January of 2019. Upon their separation, Charles Vallow retained, y'all. Remember that when Lori disappeared for, I think it was 58 days? He retained custody of JJ and moved to Houston, Texas in March of 2019. While on a visit to see JJ in Mesa, Arizona in July of 2019, Charles Vallow was murdered by Alex Cox, and they should have put Lori too, because she's facing charges of conspiracy to commit murder, which is the same as murder in Arizona, the same thing in Idaho, which is, neither here nor there, but the bottom line, to say murdered by Alex, they needed to add Lori's name to that too, because she is a damn murderer. After the murder of Charles Vallow, JJ was in the custody of Lori until his murder occurred in September of 2019. And you just think about that. July of 2019, Charles is murdered, and then it's July, August, September. Just 2 months later, she's murdering that precious little boy and that precious, beautiful Tylee. It just didn't, it wasn't going to stop at Charles Vallow. I mean, you know what's interesting about this is that she didn't have to murder them to take their Social Security money. She didn't have to do that at all. She could have homeschooled JJ and kept the Social Security money for her petties and her, her hair appointments and her Botox and all that other crap. But she had to have every penny of it, don't you know? And she didn't want to have to take care of that beautiful little boy or his sister. Although his sister was nearing, she was going to be an adult sooner or later. I mean, Lori could have sent both of them off to boarding school. You know, she could have sent them anywhere. We've talked about this a million times. She had every option in the world besides murdering them. So for everyone, and I even believe it was for money, but it was not all about the money. She did this also to, I guess, just to destroy lives, specifically Kay and Larry. She knew she was going to get them back. She knew she was going to get them back for everything they'd done. She knew that Kay and Larry loved that little boy and loved Tylee too. The Woodcocks have been part of JJ's life since his birth and has maintained constant contact with their grandson throughout his life. And you know what they should have said, adding to it, but you know, I'm not a legal person and I understand why they didn't. But they should have said the only time that the Woodcocks could not have a relationship with JJ was because Lori ripped him away from the people that loved him the most. They should have said that, but you know, the Woodcocks are the closest biological relatives that JJ has, other than his father, Dennis Trahan, who is still alive, and some aunts, uncles, and cousins on Charles Vallow's side of the family. JJ also has some adopted brothers. JJ's biological mother, Mandy Ledger, has passed away. It is very clear that the victims' rights in criminal cases are governed by Article 1, Section 22 of the Idaho State Constitution. And let me just quickly let y'all know what that is. I need to make that clear so that we know what they're saying, because it's not spelled out here. Article 1, Section 22 of the Idaho Constitution is a list of rights to victims, and one of them specifically that applies to this is being able to attend all proceedings. A victim is able to do that. Now, as many of y'all know, this is the whole issue of whether Larry and Kay are immediate family or whether they're victims. Idaho Rules of Evidence, Rule 615, excluding witnesses. This is what Judge Boyce is looking at. And it's the A section. It says, at a party's request, the court may order witnesses excluded so that they cannot hear other witnesses' testimony, or the court may do so on its own. But this rule does not authorize excluding, and that what they're saying is this rule doesn't authorize you to exclude who? The victims. So this is something that's got to be worked out, and this is exactly what's I hope and pray we'll hear about come Monday. And some have said, why didn't Judge Boyce come out Friday with, this and everything? Number one, the attorney had let in the filing know that when Archie brought all this crap up, that Larry and Kay had to hire this attorney, and that this attorney couldn't be there to argue Kay and Larry's position on stuff. To top that off, the state and since then the attorney and the defense was going to be able to turn over briefs to Judge Boyce so he could look at that and making a determination. Now let me emphasize this. Whether it's the defense saying they don't want Kay and Larry in there, the judge could do this just to be doing it. That's quite clear in the Idaho criminal rules there. But I don't think that the judge would have had an issue with Kay and Larry being in there, and I don't think he would have called this out, this whole should Kay and Larry be in there or not, had the defense attorney not brought it to his attention. And I'm glad that Rob Wood had the position that he had, but then again, y'all, the bottom line is this should have been ironed out sooner, and this should have not been an added expense to what all of us know are Kay and Larry, who are not only immediate family, but victims as well. The state should call Kay and Larry first as witnesses, so then they can stay afterwards. The defense wants them left out, not only so that they don't hear the other witnesses, though. The defense is basically can easily say, we don't want Kay and Larry sitting in the courtroom because we think it's going to affect the jurors. The jurors are going to see Kay and Larry sitting in there. They're going to know they're the grandparents. They're going to know that they are the face of the people that love JJ and Tylee the most and who are the ones seeking justice. Yes, Crush is going to be there and other victims' family members are going to be there, folks, but the bottom line is, what the hell? You've got these murders in Idaho and people are trying to decide whether victims' family members can come in there and seek justice. This is man's law trying to exclude people. I mean, it's absolutely pathetic. All the cult beliefs are in their doctrines and church founders except the term zombies. That's why people keep falling in this pit of evil. You know, zombies, I think zombies was probably something that Melanie Gibb came up with, to be honest with you. I think Lori and Chad was using it like dark spirits or evil entities. Remember the witches? Christina Atwood, Nicole Earle, the rest of these women, they're armed to the square. We're going to get rid of the demons. Well, is any of them on the state's witness list? How about it? Let's put all the witches on the stand while we're at it. Melanie Gibb and Zulema and them get to be on the stand. Put Christina Atwood and Nicole Earle. Y'all saw their police interviews. How damn crazy. These people, how do these people live like this? How do they live thinking that they have these stupid powers? You know, what's interesting about it is, you know, some of them say, you know, Lori, what was it? Maybe it was Christina Atwood. She came to my door and me and my family were having some financial issues and she handed me $1,000. Well, I'll tell you something. If this Christina Atwood could put her damn arm to the square and God would hear her to get rid of demons and all this crazy ass shit, how about put your arm to the square and ask God to help you with your finances? Instead of having some damn hussy give you money that belonged, actually, I'm sure the money was probably JJ's Social Security or some of Charles's money. Because Lori sure as hell wasn't going to pull money out of her ass. And she could have. She could have went. She could have got a job at Supercuts. Anywhere. She could have gone and flipped burgers. She could have done anything she wanted to do to make her own damn money. Then she could give it away. But no. She's trying to get Chad and everybody else to think she's got all this damn money. Chad's such a damn horn dog. And by the way, if y'all... This is the truth. I mean, I'm going to tell you. This whole trial, remember I told y'all that John Pryor's going to get a front row seat of the state's case? He's going to get to see their hand and all that. Make no mistake, y'all. Make no mistake. Chad's going to get to know all about it. Chad's going to know everything that's gone on. His attorney's going to make sure that he sees this. And many of y'all said, well, KJ, Lori's going to say it was all Chad and Alex. I've said that. Some of y'all think that it's Chad and Lori trying to say it's all Alex. Well, Alex was the hitman, but Alex is one slice of bread short of loaf. He would have never thought about this on his own. And just put this into perspective. You know how he felt about his sister. I mean, he did everything. He followed her around. He never wanted her mad at him. He'd go out and buy her a coat, do whatever the hell she wanted him to do. And he's going to take it upon himself without her knowing that to murder the children? Give me a break. Give me a break. Clark Kent says a good tree person bears good fruit and a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. You will know them by their fruits. And that's Jesus Christ talking about it. And I'll tell you something else, Clark Kent. One time Jesus went to try to get some figs off a tree, and there wasn't any, and he cursed that tree, and he said, you will never bear fruit again. Take that in. Let that sink in. A woman should learn in quietness and full submission. I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over a man. She must be quiet, for Adam was formed first, then Eve. 1 Timothy chapter 2 says nobody special. And there are a lot of different beliefs. There are a lot of people on this channel that have different belief systems. And I'll tell you, if you want to really think about this, what you just said and apply it to Chad and Lori, make no mistake, from the very get-go, before Lori met Chad Daybell, she's sitting at Melanie Gibbs in an in-home meeting saying she was on equal footing with men. She was the warrior beyond the millennia. She had all these, anointings or whatever. She was prophetic. Her own brother, Adam Cox, told her, you know what? You're not a prophetess. You don't get to be that. That's not how it works, Lori. The bottom line is you can take anything and warp it. You can believe something deep down in your heart, but that doesn't make it so. And we're seeing that played out with Lori and Chad and Alex. Lori's just re-victimizing Kay and Larry over again. I can just see her smug face snickering over this. Well, I can tell you this about Lori. When she finds out, and this is my hope, y'all. Y'all know I've been wrong about a lot of things. But it is my hope that the judge is going to rule that Kay and Larry can sit in the courtroom. It's going to burn her up. Because, see, Lori doesn't have control anymore. She had control there for a while when the children's bodies weren't found. She and Chad thought the children are not, their bodies are not going to be found. Remember January of 2020 when the police went out there to Chad's and there was all that snow on the ground? The bottom line is they didn't find the children, and Chad and Lori's like, yes, there's, they didn't find the children and they won't be back to look. They've already been out there. We're in this clear now. All we have to do is stay quiet. Rob Wood tells Summer Shiflett, hey, Lori was going to say something to us, but Chad talked her out of it. Think about it. Just play it out. If they arrested Lori for non-production of the children, right? It would have been cruel and unusual to keep her in a jail cell. They couldn't keep her in a jail cell for here on out until the children were produced. They couldn't do that. That would have not happened. She would have eventually been released, and Chad and Lori knew that. You know how they knew that? Mark Means, I am absolutely positive. Mark Means told them, hey, just hang tight. I don't know what he told, what Lori and Chad told Mark Means about it all until the children were dug up. Or this other Barthlick, the other attorney that says, let's move beyond rumor and speculation. Remember that? Oh, yeah, rumor and speculation. There's nothing in terms of rumor or speculation over the fact that the children were gone. No one had seen them. There's no rumor or speculation when Lori and Chad take off to Hawaii and the children are not with them. There's no rumor or speculation when you see no one anywhere that that Lori and Chad knew where those children were. The FBI knew. The FBI knew something terrible had happened. Or they were looking for him, but I think deep down they all knew this was going to turn out bad. This was going to turn out real bad. Valerie Moore, I'm hoping that this motion that was filed by Kay and Larry's attorney will get resolved by Monday. At least, the judge ruling on it. I'm not saying, I guess if I had my way, that he would have another last minute hearing like he did on this issue, have him another one where Lori has to be in attendance and the judge reads out that Kay and Larry get to sit through the trial and that he deems them personal representatives legally of JJ. Boy, wouldn't that just be absolutely priceless that Lori would have to accept that right off the bat before they adjudicate this case and take her ass down. I'd love to see that, but there is a possibility that he'll probably just issue the ruling in writing and we'll get it on the portal. Y'all know as well as I do that, you got people like Big E, you got Justin Lum, Nate Eaton. They're going to get a hold of this ruling before anybody else. So, I'm going to be looking out for it. I hope all of y'all will. There's been many times that the Rays on here said, hey, KJ, did you know this happened? I can't stick to my phone and keep up on things 100% of the time. And so sometimes y'all are like nudging me going, hey, this just happened, So I appreciate everyone that does that because that really helps me out a lot. Maria P says, I'm not holding my breath. This judge seems to be giving in to everything Lori wants. Well, Maria P, this attorney of Kay and Larry said that they didn't see that this would harm anything. This would not harm this case at all. In fact, this whole idea of letting them, maybe the attorney can broker a deal with the state to let Kay and Larry, if they're both testifying or if it's just Kay, let them testify first and the judge know that this is what they intend to do. That would reduce that. This whole idea that, the Woodcocks would actually change their testimony because they heard other witnesses. Give me a break. I think this really comes down to whether the Judge Boyce believes that Larry and Kay sitting out there in the trial is going to look sympathetic and whether or not this could be an appeals issue. It's just incredible. I never thought that, all of this would happen legality-wise through all of this. Severance of the cases. It's a conspiracy case. Perfect case for them being tried together. Change of venue. This whole death penalty crap being taken off the table. I mean, it just absolutely has disappointed me in a lot of ways. But it's what we have. There's nothing else. What we got to hope, more than anything, is that justice is served. That's all. And we don't know what that could. I mean, to me, it would be life in prison. I'm sure many of y'all feel the same way. Zero says, Chandler made the Brandon shooting disappear. Bet you missing children case could get disappeared too if somebody had wanted it to. Thank God for Rexburg cops. And Zero, that's this whole thing about why isn't Arizona, they've got all the evidence they need. Really good evidence. We're talking storage unit videos of Chad and Lori and Alex working in tandem to take Brandon out, and Brandon's eyewitness, but they're not going to do anything. It's pathetic. A pure spiritual heart seeks mercy, not justice. The devil always seeks his pound of flesh, justice. And that's a good, that's a good opinion there. Nobody special. But I can guarantee you this, that God is the judge and he does seek justice. Okay? Vengeance is mine, says God Almighty. It doesn't say God says, I seek forgiveness no, he gets his justice. Okay? So there are many, many different beliefs. And, you know, it's nice that you want to share your beliefs with everyone. But let's just be clear. Only God knows the truth, okay? Only God. I actually disagree. Boyce didn't like what Larry said about him, and he's such a baby. He had to get back at him. It came up suddenly without emotion. Seemed personal. Well, you know, that's not what I saw, Sand. I actually think that Judge Boyce at that last hearing he had brought up other case law, and for a brief moment I thought he was entertaining Kay and Larry being there. I guess really it comes down to why did he even... the only reason that he didn't rule on it then is because the state wanted their say-so in it too. If the defense is going to motion that Kay and Larry shouldn't be in there, and the state says, I want to turn a brief in, and you got to have it, and the judge says you got to have it turned over by 5 p.m., he's going to hear the whole deal. Now he gets to hear Kay and Larry's attorney on all of this as well. So anyway, y'all, that's what that is all about. Beach Bum says, I'm just hoping this trial goes forward, that she doesn't cry, we're not ready, I waive my right to speedy trial. I don't think that's going to happen. This is it. This is going to happen. 2 days from now, jury selection, there isn't no turning back on any of this. Kim DiMaggio, looking forward to seeing her smile on the back of a cop car to Arizona. Oh, Lord. Okay, now let me just... I want to bring this up because I think this is relevant. I think whenever we are talking about this case, it's always good to learn something that we didn't know. I mean, I didn't know this, so I want to share this with all of y'all, okay? In all 50 states, currently, they have some type of grandparents visitation statute through which grandparents and sometimes others, foster parents and step parents, for example, can ask a court to grant them the legal right to maintain their relationship with beloved children. Now, with that said, and the facts that I'm laying out here, Larry and Kay, first of all, it took them a while to figure out, and it was through that Amazon account where Lori got into Charles Bella's Amazon account to buy the malachite rings and the wedding dress, that they were able to get an address to get a welfare check, okay? They did not have time to really see any of this other stuff that they could have done, but let's just preface it by saying that by the time they realized that something really bad had happened, they did go in and petition to get custody of JJ. Obviously, they hoped for the best and all of that. So, anyway, just letting y'all know that. The relationship between grandparents and grandchildren is special, and parents usually encourage this relationship. But in some situations, parents limit or completely cut off contact between their kids and the grandparents. Conflicts with the grandparents might come up after a divorce, after one parent dies, or simply when parents believe that the grandparents are meddling in how they raise their children. Many states have grandparent visitation laws that allow judges to give grandparents, at least under certain circumstances, the right to visit the children over the parents' objections. Idaho law has a law like this, although it didn't set any restrictions on when grandparents could request these orders. But this happened in 2022, so this wouldn't have applied back in 2019 and 2020, okay? But this is something interesting. The Idaho Supreme Court overturned this grandparents' rights law, holding that it was unconstitutional. The Idaho Supreme Court held that the state's grandparent visitation law violated the fundamental rights of parents to make decisions concerning the care, custody, and control of the children. In a nutshell, Idaho decided to say that parents' rights absolutely, and I agree with this to a degree, unless they're showing some kind of unhealthiness. I don't believe that a parent's rights should be less or anything like that. And I do believe grandparents are important in the life of a child. But I don't think that a grandparent should supersede the parents' rights if the parent's doing nothing wrong. Of course, y'all know that Lori, her and Alex and Chad murdered Kay and Larry, Charles Vallow, Kay's brother, and they were grandparents. They knew right then and there they had to have known that Charles had been murdered. From there, and Lori had to have known that Kay and Larry knew that. That's why she was so quick to leave Arizona, go to Idaho. A lot of people think, no, KJ, she left Arizona to be close to Chad. And that's true. But she had to get the hell out of Dodge as well. So in 2022, the Idaho Supreme Court ruled that the state's grandparent visitation law was unconstitutional. And the law allows judges to grant visitation rights to both grandparents and great-parents as long as they could show that it would be in the children's best interest. Grandparents could seek these visitation orders even when the parents weren't getting divorced or both parents were no longer alive. All the grandparents needed to do was file a petition in court and provide convincing evidence that the visitation would be good for the child. While that might have been difficult to prove when the child's parents were fit and had cut off all contact, it wasn't impossible. However, in Nelson versus Evans, the state's high court held that the law violated the fundamental rights of parents to make decisions concerning the care, custody, and control of their children. Courts have long recognized those rights as protected under the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. They're also reflected in Idaho law under the state's Parental Rights Act. The Nelson Court pointed to 3 principles that apply to grandparent visitation as set out by the U.S. Supreme Court in Troxel versus Granville. Now, the reason I bring this to you is because, I know this is armchair quarterbacking, but just think about it like this. And if the children would have not been murdered, I could see that Kay and Larry would get to the point where they're like, I'm missing JJ. She's got no reason to do this. We've had this extended relationship, just as their attorney has put in the facts in the motion about this consistent relationship with JJ. And we want to see JJ. They could have filed this down the road. But I just think it's interesting that it's laid out that the 3 principles are that the presumption that fit parents act in their children's best interest. Now, does anybody believe that it was in the children's best interest, first of all, to have Alex Cox over there at Lori's with a gun, that Lori was in the middle of all this cult bullshit, inviting people over to her house, talking about all this crazy stuff, getting into an adulterous affair with Chad Daybell behind JJ's father's back, doing all of that the presumption that fit parents act in their child's best interest. Lori was not doing anything in JJ's best interest. The requirement that courts give special weight. This is second principle. To fit parents' decisions to restrict or deny grandparent visitation. So, again, this goes back to a fit parent. Lori, to me, was not a fit parent. If you're having to call, the police and say she needs to go see somebody, and of course we know how all that played out. They gave her flying colors when she went to do this bullshit mental evaluation. She still was not in her right mind. She was still doing all this stuff. Not to mention, a fit parent does not take off for 58 days. A fit parent doesn't go to tell people, I could drive off a damn cliff with my kids. It don't matter. It's the end of the world. A fit parent who does not allow her autistic son to take his medications, etc. I could go on. And finally, the prohibition on overstepping parents' decisions just because a different decision might be better. Okay, overstepping a parent's decision. What decision did Lori make about the care of her own children? Her decision was to murder them, basically. I mean, I believe she wanted to murder them before she even left Arizona, to be honest with you. But let's just say, think about it. She's already murdering her daughter by September 8th. JJ is still alive under the care of this woman, his mother, who is unfit, obviously, because JJ's sister's been murdered, not to mention JJ's father has been murdered. This woman was not fit to have the care of her children. So these three principles are laughable. Idaho courts found the state's grandparent visitation law violated those basic constitutional principles. It didn't serve any compelling state interest because it didn't require proof that the children would be harmed if the grandparents couldn't visit them. Well, I'll tell you something. If Larry and Kay could have established, and I know, again, this is neither here nor there now, but I'm just trying to prove a point. If somehow legally Larry and Kay could have established those visitation rights, yes, absolutely. That would have been the healthiest time that JJ would have been in anyone's care. Because he sure as hell wasn't in his mother's care, having a healthy relationship in that. He was too busy, Lori was too busy looking at him as a zombie, looking at him like, something was wrong with him. Excuse me, y'all, I got a tickle in my throat. Also, the law was too broad because it didn't set any limits on when grandparents could request visitation orders. As the parents in this case argued, the law has no safeguards to prevent otherwise fit parents from being hauled into court by overzealous grandparents. Well, I guarantee you, I'll tell you, there was nothing overzealous about Larry and Kay Woodcock and them being grandparents. They were begging Lori. They weren't, Lori went to tell Melanie Gibb, what is it that Melanie Gibb was saying about your family or people's trying to take or kidnap JJ and all that? What a crock of shit. That there was never any evidence that Larry and Kay was trying to take JJ away from her. All they wanted to do was continue their relationship with JJ. And I believe in that if they could have done that, then maybe, just maybe, that would have slowed this whole ordeal down about what Lori was wanting to do to them, basically. If something could have been established. What can you do if your grandchildren's parents won't let you visit? In the wake of the Idaho Supreme Court's decision, the state legislature might try to rewrite its grandparent visitation law in a way that wouldn't violate parents' constitutional rights. Until then, there doesn't appear to be a legal way for grandparents to get visitation rights with a child living in Idaho when the parents won't allow it. And that, y'all, that's since 2022. So, even before that, I would say it would have been nearly impossible. If you're on speaking terms with your grandchild's parents, which they were not, Lori would not do anything to, reciprocate Larry and Kay want to see JJ, talk to JJ, spend time to JJ. If you're on speaking terms with the grandchildren's parents or other legal guardian, you could ask if they would be willing to participate in mediation. Although custody mediation is usually used by parents who can't agree with each other about parenting time, it can also help parents and grandparents work out their differences about visitation. Sometimes these conflicts arise from misunderstandings and communication problems, which that wasn't what it was. What it was Lori was just a diabolical, evil woman that didn't get her way when she murdered Charles for his insurance money. Everybody knows. And Larry and Kay would be the first to say, all she had to do was say, give me the money and you can have JJ. Charles wanted Kay to have that money to take care of JJ because Charles knew Lori enough to know that she would have given JJ off to Kay and Larry anyway at some point. Although she took it a step further. I mean, Charles, could you imagine? Charles just absolutely, the last thing that he probably ever thought was that Lori would murder JJ. Think about that. Just think about that. Sometimes these conflicts, aside from misunderstandings and communication problems, in those situations, a trained neutral mediator can help people sort out the issues and identify possible solutions. And this is just another avenue, another option that could have been, Lori could have done anything and everything to establish whatever needed to be done. I mean, if she is considering sending JJ to Kay, as she told Melanie Gibb, now it was either that or she just told Melanie Gibb this, which if you think about it on a logical way, this is my opinion, this is my view. Melanie Gibb knew that JJ was going to die. Okay, I just believe it. Because she knew that Tylee had already been murdered. So Melanie Gibb, maybe she made that up about Lori saying sending JJ to Kay so that Melanie Gibb would have a reason to tell law enforcement, well, I thought, Lori told me he was going to go, that, they went to the airport and sent JJ off with Kay. She had to come up with something, right? So the bottom line is if my theory and hypothesis is correct, that was all made up. Lori was not going to send JJ to Kay. That's not the truth. Melanie Gibb is lying because Lori was at that point so vindictive. If she would just see this through, if Lori would have actually really wanted to send JJ to Kay, Lori would have had the thought process, okay, if JJ goes to Kay, then I don't get the Social Security benefits anymore. I have no income. I have no way of taking care of myself other than to say, 2 weeks 2 weeks ago, I murdered Tylee and I got her survivor funds. Those are the only funds I'm going to keep. I'm not going to keep the in-child care stuff. You see, Lori was dead set that Larry and Kay was never going to see JJ again. That's just the way it is. So, it's sad. Larry and Kay are absolutely the grandparents and immediate family of JJ. They are all that JJ has now. Don't get me wrong. I know Kobe loved JJ. I know other people in their family that's listed in their motion, Kay and Larry's motion, Kresha obviously loves JJ and all that. But Larry and Kay, from day one, it was them. It was them. They were the face and are still today. If it wouldn't have been for them, nothing would have ever been done. Nothing would have ever happened. They're the ones that I look to. Kay, Larry, and Kresha, they're the ones I look to when I say, okay, justice is unfolded for who? For who? Not only the murdered victims, but for the victims' family members. And so, this to see justice unfold isn't for me or you. Although we want to see justice, we seek justice. We seek justice through understanding. The bottom line is this is for Kay and Larry, Kresha, and all the victims' family members. And, we love Larry and Kay and Cresha. Our prayers are for the other victims' family members. But, the bottom line is that they are the ones, regardless of what Judge Boyce does, y'all. Regardless of what he does. The bottom line is if you play this out and Judge Boyce does keep them out of the courtroom, they're gonna hear about it. They're gonna know about it just like we have. They're not gonna get to see it. But I can tell you this, and I can look at you and I can say this. There is a 99.999% possibility, I believe it, that when she is convicted, and it's going to take, they said that after she's convicted, she's found guilty, the judge ain't going to sentence her that day, right? They're going to do a pre-sentencing report. This is also important, and I hope Kay and Larry understand this. I know their attorney will go over it with them. But if they are designated victims, right, and representatives of JJ, the bottom line is that Kay and Larry get to read those pre-sentence reports on Lori. Everything that happened at the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, that's in their rights as victims. Now, they can't go out here in the news and tell everybody what was in those pre-sentence reports. Those are private. It's illegal for a victim to get to look at a pre-sentence report and then go out and tell everybody. But they themselves can sit down and see everything of Lori's stay at the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, everything she said, the medication she was on, everything. Pre-sentence report. If they are designated victims and are representatives of JJ, that is in victims' rights in Idaho. Fact. And I hope if they want to understand more about all of this, it isn't just about getting to sit in there and watch all the evidence unfold. They understand that in sentencing, there'll be pre-sentence reports that they themselves get to read. And what I was trying before I went off to another direction on this is that I believe 99.999 that by that time when she's convicted, that he will allow cameras in the courtroom for sentencing. I believe that. We will all get to see Lori's face when the judge sentences her to whatever he sentences her to. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. I believe also that Larry and Kay will get to sit in the courtroom during the trial. That's what I believe. I'd hate to be wrong. I want to be right. Y'all know I've been wrong many times. But that's what old KJ thinks. I'm going to continue to pray and hope. Kavita Dita says, I heard if Kay and Larry testify at trial, after they testify, they can stay in the courtroom. And Kavita Diva, that seems like common sense. But if one of the arguments that the defense attorney, Archie and Thomas, is given is that they don't want the jury members to see the grandparents of JJ in there, perhaps, and I'd hate to say this, but I got to, see Larry or Kay cry, or say they put autopsy photos up there and the jury member sees Larry or Kay do this and, or something, just in pain, that can affect jurors. But if the judge is not convinced of that, then, I just believe that they should be in there. Anyone that is a victim of what Lori and Chad has done, along with Alex, along with Melanie Gibbs, Zulema, David Warwick, Melanie P., any of them, I think that they should be able to sit and see all that. It's incredible that we all, I can only speak for me, because justice through understanding is whatever it is to you, but I really believed that I was going to see this adjudication and it was all going to make me feel better about justice in this world, but y'all know how I feel now. I'm very pessimistic about it all. Sam Willow says, can Archie say he's going to recall Kay and Larry and keep them out of the courtroom? Well, Sam Willow, as you recall a while back, when Lori's defense attorneys had to let the state know who their witnesses were going to be. They said all the state's witnesses, or whoever Chad's witnesses were going to be on their witness list. And they said that the witnesses that Archie and Thomas were originally going to call were only going to be witnesses in the penalty phase of a death penalty case. But now that death penalty's gone, those witnesses are gone, but they still have those. So I don't know. That's a good question. It really comes down to what the judge thinks, whether this could be an appeals problem or not. Ultimately, when the rubber meets the pavement, that's really what it comes down to. If he doesn't think there's going to be anything that's going to cause an appeals issue, he'll say it's okay. So we just got to keep hoping and praying and looking toward that decision Monday. Seeking to feel better about justice shows bias. Pray for the Lori and Chad's souls. Jesus said, Father, forgive them. They know what they are doing. Luke 23:34. Well, that's very, very thoughtful of you. Can Judge Boyce make the call regarding representative for JJ? Does that need to be decided in family court? Edie, he can make a decision. The attorney for Kay and Larry is not going to ask Judge Boyce to make Kay and Larry JJ's representative unless that attorney knows that judge has the power to do that. Does that make sense? Even if they are recalled, they cannot be asked about anything new, just about what they have testified before. So this could mean they can remain in the room after they testify. That's a good point, Stella F. Rebuttal. They don't, in rebuttal also, the state's rebuttal case, they don't bring up what they've already laid out. They look at whatever the defense has done, and then they put a rebuttal to whatever, just kind of sew everything up. Thank you, Carol M. Second phone. That's very sweet. Let's see. Maria P., when you say you should continue this podcast through the Arizona trial, I'm after Lori's case is adjudicated, the channel is going to basically come down until we find out what happens with Chad. That won't happen till probably next year sometime. In terms of Arizona, I'm not going to do that, because the bottom line is that Crescia K. Easton of Difficult Research is going to continue on doing that. I'm looking for Lori to get convicted. I have really I've waited a long time along with all of y'all to see this unfold. And it is very disappointing that we're not going to get to see the trial. But I have to look at things on the bright side. The good Lord gave us ears too. And maybe there are things we'll glean from what we hear instead of seeing stuff. And obviously, y'all, there are going to be media or other people that's going to be in the courtroom that's going to be tweeting out, who's going to be making visual observations. And no, it's not the same as seeing a trial with cameras. But we will get the audio every night on East Idaho News. Nate Eaton says 7:30 every evening. They're going to be releasing the audio. So I will say this, unless it gets just way too much for us to put, to listen to the audio and then listen to the other channels that we want to listen to, and then come here, because ultimately the priority needs to be Crescia K. Easton of Difficult Research. But what I'm saying is I'm going to try to come to y'all, later in the evening, so that I've had time to listen to at least some of the audio. I might have, if you're talking about a whole day's testimony, it's going to be kind of hard for us to figure this out. And maybe some of this we can skip over, that's more about chain of custody stuff or things that are more technical, and not more of the meat, if you know what I mean. And we can kind of laser in on some of the things that we find important. Does that make sense? But I'm going to do my best to get with y'all as much as possible. We'll just have to see how it goes. Again, this week, yes, it starts on Monday with jury selection, but we're looking at maybe, if possible, the end of this week, but probably the beginning of next week. So let's just keep our eyes and ears open. Let's continue to get justice through understanding. Let's continue to support Crescia K. Easton at Difficult Research, along with Larry and Kay Woodcock, the rest of the victims' family members. Our thoughts and prayers need to be with all of the people, the faculty, and all the people putting this trial together. The jury, the judge, the state. Let's hope and pray that it all comes together the way it's supposed to, because it's going to turn out the way it is, whether we like it or not. So anyway, I love you all. I appreciate y'all being here. Let's keep in contact. Have a great rest of the weekend, and keep on looking.